Bulabinaka, and good afternoon to you all. It is indeed my pleasure to be here and to join you for this very exciting event. Ladies and gentlemen, pandemics, climate change, recessions, geopolitical unrest, conflicts, supply chain uncertainties, escalating costs of global commodities are just some of the many uncertainties facing us today. They tend to plague the development ambitions of small island developing states like Fiji. None of these challenges can be solved by any one country. But it must start somewhere with unique solutions. Countries need to steer their own development agenda in a direction that unlocks new and additional capital. This must be done without being at the uncertain mercy of sporadic development finance that seem to mostly be offered when developing countries need to be bailed out of crisis situations. And that could have well been avoided if such development finance was available and in advance and in a much more planned manner to grow the economy, build resilience, strengthen social stability, and enhance standards of living. As we say, the perma-crisis deepens further in 2023 and beyond. Fiji can no longer be holding up all the time the victim card in an ever-competitive and shrinking world of development finance. We believe that Fiji needs to help itself. It needs to reaffirm its economic resilience by diversifying its economic base and unlocking the economic potential of its greatest resource, its vast ocean space. Spanning across 1.3 million square kilometers, Fiji's exclusive economic zone makes it the 26th largest ocean state in the world. Over 70% of our population live within 5 kilometers of the coastline, and we have over 65,000 hectares of mangroves. That is almost the size of Singapore. So it is, in some ways, a no-brainer that the Fiji government is keen to operationalize its blue economy ambitions and sustainably leverage ocean-based resources to support economic and social development. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, recognizing the need to bridge the dichotomy between economic development and sustainable use of our ocean space, the Fiji government has been working with the United Nations Development Programme over the past several months to structure Fiji's first ever sovereign blue bond, with generous financial support from the UK government's Blue Planet Fund. The process began by developing and launching the Fijian Sustainable Bond Framework in 2022 at the United Nations Climate Change Conference COP27, which provides an all-encompassing definition of what constitutes as green, blue, or social bond projects with well-defined criteria and qualifiers. Available on the Ministry of Finance website This framework creates a common taxonomy and understanding between government as thematic bond issuer and investors who choose to invest in the sustainable development of Fiji's future, yielding attractive returns. In early 2023, the Fiji government and UNDP began identifying a comprehensive list of national priority projects, which underwent a robust multi-criteria elimination process. Shortlisted projects then went through detailed techno-economic assessments and feasibility studies to ascertain potential returns on investment, development impact, potential environment and non-environmental risks, as well as other parameters that help the government make an informed selection of robust projects that would benefit from Blue Bond financing. These projects were then put through the 2023-24 national budget process before being endorsed by Parliament as part of the coalition government's first ever national budget. We then went on to develop a bond prospectus along with a comprehensive monitoring and evaluation framework. Friends, ladies and gentlemen, you would have comprehended by now that a lot of careful thought, technical analysis, means testing have gone into restructuring or structuring Fiji's first ever Blue Bond. The government, the coalition government, took the time to assess the pros and cons of such an issuance and ensure that our partners gave us the best possible information to make an informed decision about raising debt in the form of a Blue Bond. We also dissected the learning of Fiji's 2017 Green Bond issuance and have set the parameters for this Blue Bond issuance to only make sense from an environment, to not only make sense from an environment and conservation perspective, but also from an investment perspective as well. For those potential investors and finance experts in the room today, allow me to highlight that this Blue Bond issuance has been independently reviewed and approved by Sustainalytics, which is one of the world's leading rating agencies for thematic bond issuances. The 18 projects that have been selected for funding through the Blue Bond are expected to yield many multiplier economic benefits, focusing on the following 4 thematic areas, and I want to highlight this. 1, using nature-based solutions for coastal protection for low-lying, vulnerable coastal communities. 2, scaling up of Fiji's aquaculture sector by focusing on advanced national breeding programs and public-private grow-out programs for multiple species that include bichidima, sea cucumber, shrimps, prawns, pearls, seaweed, giant clams, and grouper fish. 3, developing sustainable towns and cities using integrated planning solutions and with a focus on operationalizing Blue Town concepts. 4th, enhancing solid waste management by enhancing the capacity of Fiji's only sanitary landfill and boosting the capabilities of water treatment for the Water Authority of Fiji. Friends, as we go into COP28 later this month, which is a very significant meeting, or COP, as should I say. And the whole issue of loss and damage fund is going to take center stage. But as we go into COP28 later this month, we seldom talk about the fact that our commitments to the climate and environmental conservation require new and additional financing on top of what we already spend to support our relatively small economy and its social development needs. The harsh reality is that complete dependence on fiscal revenue will never help Fiji achieve its climate, environment, or sustainable development agenda. That's why we have been strongly advocating increasing financing not only for adaptation and mitigation, but a more meaningful and urgent conclusion of the loss and damage financing at the upcoming COP. And we believe that the failure, any suggestion of a failure not to have a very well-articulated, well-planned, devoid of process and procedures which are cumbersome and complex, the non-establishment of the loss and damage fund will be a complete disaster for COP28. There is also a need to unlock private capital through the creation and use of investment vehicles such as the Blue Bond for private and philanthropic resource mobilization that can be further complemented by bilateral and multilateral processes. The issuance of the Blue Bond will allow government to implement its climate and environmental conservation work without compromising its existing socio-economic commitments. It will also help tap into the large domestic liquidity that we have at the moment and divert private capital towards projects that would have otherwise never received funding from the private sector. It will help set the foundations of the growth of new and emerging sectors such as aquaculture at a very nascent stage at this moment, marine engineering, waste management, and using public-private partnerships and establishment of community-led coastal business in marine protected areas. I wish to therefore encourage financial institutions, banks, and private investors to participate in this historic sovereign blue bond issuance. I wish to also emphasize that you are not only investing in a one-off bond, you are actually, if you do, you're actually investing in Fiji's future and helping grow sectors in which your respective organization will have an opportunity to grow. I also want to use this opportunity to encourage our development partners and donor partners to come forward and assist Fiji in its effort to access climate financing, which will be the solutions to the impact of climate change. And we have been advocating this very, very strongly in our participation in meetings such as the Asian Development Bank, World Bank, IMF. The World Bank is going through its own evolution roadmap. The ADB is trying to become a climate bank. And all these augur very well for the future of climate financing globally. We hope to explore other innovative instruments such as debt for nature bonds and nature performance bonds if donors and bilateral partners are willing to finance the operations for it. I understand that the UNDP, through its Blue Economy team, are working on developing a new project to support the Fiji government in this regard, and I encourage other donors to provide the generous support. Before ending my statement, friends, I would like to thank the government of the United Kingdom and the UNDP for their continued support in Fiji's climate and blue economy agenda. Fiji was among the first few countries to receive support from UK's Blue Planet Fund, and this has been instrumental in structuring a robust Fiji Sovereign Blue Bond issuance. In conclusion, I want to take this opportunity to thank the Honourable Prime Minister for his leadership in the area of climate change and as Minister for Climate Change, and obviously he'll be leading Fiji's delegation to COP28, and we are hoping to have, as I said earlier, a very robust, good discussion on the loss and damage fund at COP28, and that we will see some tangible outcomes from that. I want to take this opportunity to thank the Governor of the Reserve Bank, Mr. Arif Ali, my good permanent secretary, Shri Gounder, and his hard-working team for making the issuance of the Fiji Sovereign Blue Bond possible. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.